What's up, my friends, and welcome into today's video. My name is Taylor. Welcome into the Forte Catholic YouTube channel. Today's video is in our A Catholic Perspective series, where we look at some of our favorite movies, TV shows, just share our thoughts about them and also how they do or do not connect to our faith. So welcome in. If this is your first time, you can check out the rest of the series, the playlist here on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I saw it in theaters when it first came out. I just watched it again right on the TV behind the camera, and I thought it was a perfect video for this spooky season that we find ourselves in. Happy Halloween, my friends. So this movie is kind of emblematic of a lot of Phase 4 in Marvel. There's a lot of things that I like, but overall, just kind of at the heart of it, just something really frustrating me. So I've been frustrated with their version of multiversal storytelling. I've been frustrated with how they've handled some character stuff, and both of those things exist here in this movie. But this is not just going to be a complete downer of a video, because there's a lot of things in this movie I liked, especially on a rewatch. I saw a very interesting moral question that we can try to apply our Christian faith to. So we're going to be tackling that today. So how this is going to work is, for the most part, we're just going to walk through the movie chronologically, share some of my thoughts about it, and then overall at the end get into the theme discussion, the discussion of morality as shown in this movie. One of the things that I thought was very interesting and very cool was the fact that in the universe, people know that Doctor Strange was a big part of defeating Thanos in Infinity War and Endgame. But there was this guy that he was sitting next to at a wedding, which I thought was a funeral at first, which is pretty funny. I guess it was a funeral for his love for Christine, but that's a whole nother thing. But it was Christine's wedding, and this guy walks up to him, it's another doctor, and he's mad at Doctor Strange because he made the one play that saved the most people. So if you've watched the Infinity War and Endgame, there was one scenario that Doctor Strange knew about that would defeat Thanos, and that one thing was Tony giving up his life, and using the Infinity Stones, snapping everybody, all the bad people away. But other people were still hurt and killed before that, right? So people knowing that Doctor Strange could have changed other things, or they're just asking, could there have been another way where my cats didn't have to die, which was kind of a funny thing. And then instantly he said, and my brother died. We know that people in this universe have lost people, things that they care about. So it's just kind of this interesting thing of looking at our heroes and saying, was there another way? Was there a way we could have done this? We as the viewers know that there was just this only way, but the people in the universe are looking at the heroes with a little bit of skepticism now of did this really have to go down this way? So we start the movie with Defender Strange, who's a Strange we find out from another universe, and the new character, America Chavez. He's making a similar play with America that our Doctor Strange did in Infinity War, except there's one different reason. So one difference about it. So in Infinity War, Doctor Strange knew the one play and knew that it meant that Tony was going to sacrifice his own life, but he didn't tell him about it, because essentially he said, if I tell you about it, it won't happen. You'll try to find another way, but he knows this is the only way. So he lets Tony have that choice of, is he really going to do this? And we all know that Tony makes that choice and sacrifices themselves and saves everybody. But this Defender Strange, it starts this whole moral question of, what can you do for the greater good? What can you do for the common good, that they play with throughout this movie in some really intricate and complicated ways. But I like that this Strange makes a different decision than what our Strange did, because it shows this dichotomy. This Defender Strange says, he gets to the end, he's like, I need to take America's power. It's the only way to save the multiverse, right? To save his universe. And he's about to kill her, and then she saves herself. But ultimately, she pushes away, she gets trapped again. Ultimately, as that Defender Strange is dying, he makes that mistake of trying to kill America, take her power for the greater good. But even at the end, as she's trying to escape, the bad guy gets her. Defender Strange, with his last breath, defends her. Lives up to that name, even though he made that mistake. He defends her. He dies. She escapes, which opens up that theme that we'll be talking about towards the end of the moral choices, but then also one bad choice doesn't completely change who we are and make us a bad person. Some cool moments here at the beginning of the movie. One cool moment, Steven taking his last sip of the drink at Christine's wedding whenever he sees this like octopus creature attacking the city or whatever, and just throwing his cape over, taking a sip of his martini or whatever he was drinking, and jumping out of this like high floor. It was pretty awesome. It was a really awesome visual that will always I'll always think of that now when I think of Doctor Strange. Another line that I liked that was pretty emblematic of some of my issues with how they're doing multiversal storytelling. America looks at the wizards, looks at Doctor Strange, and looks at Wong and says, how much experience do you guys have with the multiverse? That's a question that she is posing to the wizards, and that's the question that I have been posing to the team over at Marvel. Like, not that they watch or listen to this or care what I have to say at all, but it's a frustration that I think a lot of the fandom has had, is how much experience do you guys have with the multiverse and multiversal storytelling? I brought this up in my Loki video about how that story really frustrated me with how they dealt with the multiverse. And then I also did another Catholic perspective video on everything everywhere all at once, which I think was an incredible multiversal storytelling. So it's not that I hate multiverses, it's just I like them to be well written and well taken care of. So you can check out both of those videos also here on the channel. It's very interesting and emblematic for how the rest of the movie is going to go, that both Doctor Strange and Wanda are both talking about what they are doing for the greater good. So Defender Strange is saying that he has to take America's power, thus killing her for the greater good. We see Wanda saying that she's going to kill people. She's going to kill anybody that is in her way in order for the greater good, right? To the good to be with her children. A couple of funny things before we ultimately get to our theme discussion that we'll revisit some of these notes, is the visuals of going through the multiverses was just really, really cool. There was some of that in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Some just really cool visuals, like a lot of cool visuals. We got that opening scene. We got them going through the multiverses. We've got one of the final fights of Strange versus Strange, where they're fighting with the music. There's a lot of really cool visuals. I thought it was a very pretty and cool, expansive, expanded the way that Marvel movies could look. This really interesting thing that kind of played as a joke the first time I watched it, and it plays I think they mean it as a joke, but I think I don't know if they did it intentionally as foresight for what happens at the end, but the hot dog vendor that they meet in the other multiverse and in the other universe, the way that Strange they stole from this hot dog guy who's just a normal guy on the street, right? They stole from him, and all he wants is for them to pay. And what does Doctor Strange do? He makes him punch himself. He makes himself squirt mustard in his face, but then he also makes him punch himself for 3 weeks. And that's the stinger at the end of the movie. And it's like, we are seeing here what played as a joke the first time I watched it, then I rewatched and knowing where it was going. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, should we really be trusting Doctor Strange with all this power? He is a powerful, powerful force, and he's not always using it for good. Like, there's just a guy that wanted him to pay for his food, and he punishes him for 3 weeks. Like, played as a joke, but actually kind of some foresight into Steven doing some bad things here at the end. One joke that I didn't catch the first time that I watched this was whenever we go to the other universe, Billy and Tommy, Wanda's kids, are running around and they're just talking. They're being little kids. And one of the funny things was they're saying that the 2003 Detroit Tigers are the best team ever, and that's who they want to be and all this stuff. In our universe, the 2003 Detroit Tigers lost the most games ever in the American League, which I thought was just kind of a little funny thing that I didn't catch the first time, caught it the second time, that in this universe, everything was the opposite, right? Okay, so now we're going to get into this whole idea of morality. When should you do things? Making quick decisions in these dire moments, because they're at war. Sometimes they're at war, like they're fighting Wanda, where they're at war with Wanda. Wanda's at war with them. And it's interesting how like morality has different answers when we're in peacetime and when we are at war. And we'll get into what I mean by that. So there's one person, Sarah, who's one of the wizards at Camartage. Camartage gets destroyed by Wanda, the Scarlet Witch. And the Darkhold needs to be destroyed, but we know that the Darkhold takes a toll on its user. We hear that throughout the movie, meaning that whoever destroys the Darkhold will die. But we also learn that the Darkhold will turn you dark as you, the reader, the person reading it. So Sarah, who's a wizard at Camartage, she gives her life to destroy the Darkhold. She turns to stone and dies. It's pretty cool in a movie with a lot of twisted sacrifice, or people saying I'm sacrificing for the greater good, when she really, really did. Wong wanted to be the one to do it, but she said no. She stepped up, and kind of the whole idea of like Captain America going to jump on the grenade, right? She took that on herself. I thought she was a really unsung hero, and I mean unsung because I didn't even remember her or this moment. It's been a couple of months since I've seen it in the theaters, but on rewatch, and especially after this theme of sacrifice and morality kept hitting me over and over again on a rewatch, I thought her pure sacrifice was actually a pretty beautiful moment. And what we would all hope that we would do for people, lay down our lives for our friends, but especially in war, and being the one to go and to jump on the grenade to save not only your friends, but in the case of the Darkhold, she's saving, she's like, taking a nuclear weapon or something like that off the field for the bad guys. So there's a lot of times, and this goes back to Infinity War and Endgame, where Captain America looks at Vision, says, we don't trade lives to Vision, right? Because Vision is like, just kill me and destroy the stone, and then Thanos won't be able to get it. And like, he was right. Like, yes, he's sentient, but he's a robot. I mean, like, ultimately, breaking down that movie, kill a robot in order to save all of existence, totally do that every time, right? There's some things, like, do the ends justify the means? Like, that's the whole like Catholic thing. But like, when it's in war, it's like, if you can take out one person to save millions of lives in war, then it starts to be like, okay, we're leaning that way. We're in like a normal day-to-day life. It's like, do the ends justify the means? No. But when you're at war, the church even has different, there's this whole theory called just war theory, and like the things that you can do whenever you're at war. Like, I can't just go around and kill somebody right now, but if I was a soldier in our military and I was defending our nation, then in that scenario, it's fine, right? It's not like there's this black and white code across all times. Like, war changes things, right? We're going to get into this. So I thought it was interesting that Wong, he knows how strong the Scarlet Witch is. He knows that she can take over all the multiverses. And after Sarah destroys the Darkhold, she gives her life to destroy the Darkhold. There are 4 other people who I thought were dead actually already, that Wanda starts like torturing in front of him, right? In order to like, for him to say where the other Darkhold is, where the real Darkhold is. And he gives it up almost immediately. When like, he's surrounded by people who gave their life to stop Wanda and to stop her from getting to stop her from getting the Darkhold, to stop her from getting America, all of these things, right? So there's 4 lives essentially in Wong's hands at that time. And I thought it was kind of weak for him to give it up. And it's like, we often like to say that that's the heroic thing, right? You always choose like your friends' lives over, you'd always save them, right? But at that moment, if she never finds out where that other Darkhold is, like, he puts multiverses, trillions of lives in danger because of those 4 people. I just thought, like, the morality there got very complicated and very interesting, right? Like, it's something that I was even wrestling with, of like, what is the correct answer, right? Because you don't want to be directly the reason that your friends, people that you stand with, are tortured and killed, but like, also like, they're trained warriors, like they trained for this, right? Is your life worth the lives of trillions of other people? No, it's just not. We'll come back to that discussion here in just a second, but it was, one of the big moments in the movie. It was really cool to see the Illuminati, right? We see Mr. Fantastic, Professor X, Captain Carter, the other Miss Marvel, I'm forgetting somebody. Black Bolt, right? So we get to see all these people. And the 2 that I really care about is like, we got to see John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, which was really cool. And Professor Charles Xavier is back, or he was there for a few minutes before he died, right? But it's cool to see the X-Men start to come in, Fantastic Four start to come in. And I'm just a huge fan of Charles Xavier and John Krasinski. So it's just cool to see them again. And I love Captain Carter, especially for those of y'all that watched What If. You got to see her in action as Captain America, Captain Carter. So this was what frustrated me, though. It's like they're supposed to be the multiverse experts, and they are caught completely off guard by someone traveling the multiverse, right? Black Bolt could have just said something from the beginning, like, and it's just, again, they're messing with this morality, right? Or they're tight, focusing in on this morality question. Like, technically, Scarlet Witch is possessing the body of a different Wanda Maximoff, right? So I guess that is their hesitation, is they don't want to kill this innocent person if they can stop her, right? But they're going to fight anyway. And Mr. Fantastic, who's supposed to be the smartest person in the world, just says their best strategy and says, "Oh, Black Bolt can kill you with a whisper from his mouth." And she immediately closes his mouth, and that whisper kills him instead. And it's just like, as much as I love seeing them, it was kind of frustrating to see this incredibly powerful and smart group be not powerful and not smart. Like, I get that they were showing like Wanda's power, but they really should have been prepared for something like this. And I think they were, they just didn't play it right. So that was a little frustrating. And that was one of the questions. Like, if they killed Wanda, would that have killed just that universe's Wanda? Or would it, like, if they stop her there, would it also have killed this dream-walking Wanda, like the bad Scarlet Witch? I'm not sure. I don't know. It didn't really answer it. So the most frustrating part of this movie, and the reason that I didn't like this movie, and it's kind of interesting that I waited this long to say it, but I saved it for now because I didn't want to be too down. But just, man, I know people love Sam Raimi. I know people love those his original Spider-Man movies. He did a ton to get superhero movies off the ground, but he admittedly didn't watch much Marvel. He did not watch WandaVision. And Wanda in WandaVision, like, went through transformation. Like, she already went through this pain of losing her boys and losing Vision. And by the end of WandaVision, she lets go and she kind of has this character growth. And then all of a sudden we get to Multiverse of Madness, and that character growth is gone. And she goes through almost a similar arc in a much darker way and ends up seemingly killing herself at the end. It's just like, it's just incredibly frustrating for a very well-known and popular director to come in and not know the source material or what came before him, right? He was pretty adamant and vocal about it as the movie was coming out, that he didn't watch a lot of the Marvel stuff, and he primarily didn't watch WandaVision. If Wanda's going to be your primary villain in the movie, you need to know about the character. You need to know what has come before and kind of where it's going. I just thought it was pretty frustrating and kind of like prideful to, like, not for Sam Raimi not to at least even watch him, to give, you know, he's able to give his own take. He's the director, but to not know where it came from was really, really frustrating. You know, she goes from the end of WandaVision where she lets go and she releases everybody, and like, there's real trauma and real things that she did bad, but she's, you know, giving it over. She's letting go of Vision and her boys, and she's seemingly going to face the consequences of her actions. They don't give her any consequence of her actions. They just kind of hand wave it whenever he's like, you know, she thought that Doctor Strange at the beginning was there to, you know, take her in or whatever for her crimes in the Hex in WandaVision, but they just kind of hand wave that and make it way worse. She goes from that person that was just kind of this serenity, letting go, realizing that she made mistakes and giving into that, to, I was meant to rule everything. I'm supposed to be the Scarlet Witch and the queen of everything. Like, I get that the Darkhold corrupts, and we see that at the end of WandaVision, right? We see that her reading the Darkhold, but like, for it to corrupt her this much and to have her go through a very similar character arc, but to a much worse degree, just really didn't sit right with me. She says, "I'm not a monster, Steven. I'm a mother." She says it once, and she almost says it again at the end. And I know that this has been a common thing. I listened to a couple other podcasts about Marvel stuff, and I've heard this over and over again. And I just wanted to reiterate it here. Like, the fact that the first time they've really used motherhood as a primary driver in Marvel, it was used as a bad thing and to corrupt Wanda and make her go mad, is not a good look at all. Like, it's really quite frustrating, right? We've seen fatherhood and the relationships with fathers really drive characters like Tony and like Black Panther. And, we see, Thor starting to become a father figure. We've seen Hulk start to become a father figure. And then they use motherhood, and it's used as a thing to make Wanda go crazy. It's just really, really frustrating from the writers of this movie. So, last few thoughts, and we'll end on a positive note. The other Strange tried to. So this is the final bad Strange that we meet. I don't even know what his name is, but he's the one that caused the incursion, kind of like the Dark Strange, right? He tried to force to get to a universe where he is with Christine, and it caused an incursion. The incursion is the thing where it brings two universes together. Everyone dies. Trillions and trillions of lives are lost, which is what like the Illuminati and the good guys are trying to prevent, is another one of that, because it was their Strange that messed it up. So I thought that, like that was actually a pretty cool parallel between Wanda and Strange. It's like Strange really wants to be happy. He really wants to be in a universe where he's with Christine. Wanda really wants to be in a universe where she still has her boys. But we see in the movie, like before Wanda really knows it, we see from Strange what happens when you try too hard for that, especially by using the Darkhold. And another really frustrating thing here at the end is our hero, the titular character of Multiverse of Madness and Doctor Strange. After all this talk of doing the right thing and of not necessarily giving people up for the greater good, but ultimately doing the right thing, Stephen ends up using darkness to defeat darkness. He uses the Darkhold in order to defeat Wanda, the Scarlet Witch. I just shook my head, because it's just like, what's the point here, right? Like the Book of Ashanti was supposed to be the thing, like goodness overcoming evil. And I get that, like, that's a pretty common trope. So maybe they're trying to do something different, but using darkness to defeat darkness after they've done a pretty deep exploration of morality and like the choices you have to make in war. It's pretty frustrating, because like he's becoming the thing that he hates. This is very similar to like the fall of Darth Vader, right? Like where we see Anakin, he becomes the thing that he wanted to destroy. He becomes a Sith by going over to anger and hatred and that sort of thing. They always said, the Illuminati said over and over and over again to him, is that like Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, is not the thing that we are the most afraid of. The thing that we are most afraid of is Doctor Strange, and he becomes here at the end the most dangerous being in the universe. He defeats the Scarlet Witch, he defeats Wanda, and at the end of the movie, he has the eye on the front of his head, where he is this like, now one of the most powerful beings in the world has been corrupted by the Darkhold. I mean, it's just a really, really frustrating that that's how it ended. And I get that it was a scary movie, and like there were some cool parts of it, but that was a really frustrating way to end. So, but let's end with some light here I'm hoping where they go with the next show or movie that he appears in, right? Because hopefully they do that better than they did with Wanda. Wanda had this whole arc, and they just didn't deal with it and kind of made it worse. Here, it's like Strange made the wrong choice. Like he got the correct outcome, but he made the wrong choice, right? He did something that was for the greater good, but it was bad. And I want to see what the repercussions are for that. But one thing that really, the positive theme that kept coming up was really emblemized in Charles Xavier's quote. He says, "Just because someone stumbles and loses their way does not mean that they are lost forever." So he's saying this in regards to Wanda, but we also see it now with Doctor Strange. It's like he has made the wrong choice. He's made poor choices before. The other versions of him made wrong choices to differing degrees. Wanda, even through all of her pain and guilt of WandaVision, like there's still hope for redemption. I thought that was really, really interesting for a true hero to say that, and especially because we've seen Charles Xavier take in mutants from the X-Men movies that technically aren't canon yet, I guess, for Marvel. But the X-Men movies that we grew up with, it's like he was constantly taking in kids who had troubled pasts. He was taking in my favorite, Wolverine, who had a very checkered past, right? And they were like kind of these anti-heroes. And it's like he brought them over and brought them more to the light and made them more heroic through his leadership. So I just thought that was really cool, and kind of a cool thing for me is even after all this discussion of morality and how it gets kind of complicated, is even when you make the wrong choice, the poor choice, there's always hope that we can change, both by our own power, but then also in our universe, like through God's help, right? There's always redemption and mercy available whenever we make mistakes. I just thought that was a beautiful theme that kind of weaved through the whole movie. We see this too with Defender Strange, the first Strange that dies and makes the poor choice. He ended up defending in the end, both before he died and after he died. So Defender Strange makes the wrong choice, tries to take America's power at the beginning of the movie. He makes that poor choice. America is able to get away because his last-ditch effort to save her. But also, even after death, his dead body was used to help save, our heroes, right? So I just thought it was just very emblematic of someone who even made poor choices towards the end was able to have some bit of redemption here in the story. Our mistakes and our lapses in judgment don't define us. So while there were some mistakes and lapses in judgment, I think in this movie, I think ultimately it was just fine, right? Like I really wish they would have handled Wanda's character better, but there were some really cool things in the movie as well. Let me know what you guys think about some of the themes. Let me know what you think about the movie. I think I'll give it like a 5 or 6 out of 10. Some really cool like movie going experience and stuff, but some of the story stuff really frustrated me, especially like walking out of the theater and thinking about it a little bit more. So let me know what y'all thought about the themes, about morality, about how our bad decisions don't define us. Also, check out some of our other videos in our Catholic Perspective series. Check out our Everything Everywhere All at Once Multiverse story. Check out our thoughts on Loki. Here on the channel, we also have a weekly podcast where we talk about Catholicism from a comedic point of view. Hopefully some weekly entertainment for you to help grow in your faith. We've also got some videos on some other pop culture things like our series on the Tolkien movies with our friend Team Tolkien. So yeah, hit subscribe, check out the other videos on the channel. We'll be back soon with another video from a Catholic perspective, maybe tackling a Marvel movie, maybe tackling some of the movies that are going to be up for Oscars here pretty soon. We hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please comment below what you liked, some questions, thoughts, comments, and once again, please hit that subscribe. Love you guys. See you soon.